Chuck Norris just died, March 19th, 2026. 86 years old. And right now, every tribute video on this platform is telling you the same story. The man who never lost. The legend who couldn't be touched. The myth. The meme. The icon. I want to tell you a different story. Because here's the thing about Chuck Norris that nobody's talking about right now. He was touchable. He was pushed. There were men, specific men, who looked at Chuck Norris across a battlefield, a dojo, a jungle, a coliseum, and came terrifyingly close to ending him. Today, we're finding those men. 7 opponents, ranked from formidable to the one who nearly broke him completely. Stay for number 1, because it's not who you think. And when I explain why he tops this list, it will change how you see every Chuck Norris film you've ever watched. Before we get into it, I'm Villainologist, and this channel exists for one reason. The villain is always the most interesting character in the room. Because heroes are defined by their limits, and limits are defined by the people who push them. Today, we're honoring Chuck Norris the way this channel knows how, by understanding the enemies who tried to destroy him. A few ground rules for this ranking. I'm not just ranking who was the most physically dangerous. I'm ranking by total threat. Physical, psychological, ideological. Because the most dangerous opponent isn't always the one who can beat you in a fight. Sometimes, it's the one who makes you question whether the fight is worth winning. 7 men, 1 legend. Let's go. Chuck Norris's most dangerous enemies, ranked. Number 7, the silent assassin. Keo, the Octagon, 1980. We start at number 7, and I want you to pay close attention to this one. Because at first glance, Keo looks like the easiest entry on this list. He's not running a criminal empire. He's not commanding an army. He's not corrupting the system. He's one man. One man who might know Chuck Norris better than Chuck Norris knows himself. He ninja moving through shadow. The Octagon came out in 1980, one of the most underrated action films of its era. Norris plays Scott James, a retired martial arts champion pulled back into danger when he discovers a terrorist training camp, a ninja school operating in the shadows, producing professional assassins for hire. And at the center of it all, Keo, Scott James's estranged adoptive brother. They grew up in the same house, trained under the same master, ate at the same table, and somewhere along the way, Keo chose a very different path. Keo. Here's what makes Keo uniquely terrifying as a threat. He doesn't have to study Chuck Norris. He is Chuck Norris. Or at least, he was. Think about what that means tactically. Every martial artist has tells, patterns, habits they fall back on under pressure, the way they shift their weight before a kick, the way they breathe before a combination, the microsecond of hesitation before they commit to a move. Most opponents spend months, years, trying to read those tells in someone like Norris. Keo already knows them. He trained beside him. He sparred with him. He probably beat him once or twice on a good day in that dojo when they were young. That's not intelligence gathering. That's embedded knowledge. The kind that doesn't fade. The kind that surfaces in muscle memory the moment a fight begins. But here's what I find most fascinating about Keo. And this is the kind of thing this channel lives for. He's not just physically dangerous. He's emotionally dangerous. Chuck Norris, as Scott James, doesn't want to fight Keo. He hesitates. And in a man who has eliminated hesitation from nearly every other confrontation in his career, that hesitation is enormous. Because Kyo forces him to confront something most of his enemies never do: grief. This is the person he was supposed to protect, the brother who went wrong, the failure that lives in the past. And Kyo knows that. He weaponizes it. The slow-motion stealth, the calculated patience, none of that is just tactical. It's deliberate psychological pressure on a wound that never fully healed. When they finally face each other, it's not the clean, controlled violence you expect from a Chuck Norris film. It's heavy, reluctant, almost sad. Because Norris wins, but he doesn't feel like he wins. You can see it in the aftermath. There's no triumph here, just the weight of something that should never have come to this. And that's the legacy of Kyo as a villain. He didn't beat Chuck Norris's body, but he beat something else. He won the emotional round. He's number 7 because ultimately, Kyo's greatest weapon, that embedded knowledge, is also his greatest weakness, because it cuts both ways. If you know everything about your opponent knows everything about you. Number 6 takes a completely different approach. He doesn't need to know Chuck Norris personally. He doesn't need to fight him at all, because he has something more powerful than any martial art ever invented. Number 6, the crime kingpin. Victor Rostavili, Code of Silence, 1985. Quick question before we get into Victor Rostavili. If you had to design the perfect opponent for Chuck Norris, what would you build? Most people say, make him faster, make him stronger, make him a better fighter. Wrong. The perfect opponent for Chuck Norris is one he can't hit. Cut to a wide shot of a city at night, neon lights, police sirens in the distance. Code of Silence is one of the most critically respected films in Norris's entire catalog. Norris plays Sergeant Eddie Cusack, a lone wolf cop in Chicago, caught between a violent gang war and a corrupt police department that's rotting from the inside out. And at the top of that gang war sits Victor Rostavili. He doesn't appear in most scenes. He doesn't throw punches. He doesn't kick down doors. He makes phone calls. He signs orders. He watches. And the city bends to him. Victor Rostavili understands something that most action movie villains never figure out. Physical strength has a ceiling. Power doesn't. He has corrupted officials inside the police department. He has judges. He has enforcers at every level of the city's infrastructure. When Chuck Norris tries to operate through the system is him. When Norris tries to go around the system, Rostavili already has people watching the exits. You can't roundhouse kick a system. You can't punch your way out of institutional corruption. You can't outrun a network. And Rostavili knows this. He's built his entire operation around it. He is the most structurally dangerous opponent on this list because he turns the environment itself into a weapon. Here's the layer that most people miss about Rostavili. He's a study in patience as a weapon. Every other opponent on this list gets personal with Norris. They confront him, they fight him, they try to eliminate him directly. Rostavili doesn't bother. He simply tightens the walls. He removes allies. He cuts resources. He isolates. And isolation, real, systematic isolation from the people and institutions that would normally support you, is one of the most psychologically devastating things you can do to any person, even one as internally fortified as Chuck Norris. There's a moment in Code of Silence where Cusack realizes just how alone he actually is. That moment? That's Rostavili's most effective attack, and he never even had to be in the room. When Norris finally reaches Rostavili, physically, directly, the confrontation is almost anticlimactic, because Rostavili was never built for that moment. He was built to prevent it from ever happening. The fact that it does happen is less a testament to Rostavili's failure and more a testament to Norris's almost supernatural refusal to be contained. Most men would have been buried by the machinery Rostavili built. Norris walked through it anyway. He's number 6 because systemic power, while devastatingly effective against most people, has one critical vulnerability. It requires the target to play by the rules. And Chuck Norris stopped doing that a long time ago. Number 5 doesn't try to trap Norris in a system. Number 5 tries to get inside his mind. And the method? Pure, unapologetic sadism. Let's pause for a second. We're 3 entries in, and I want you to notice something. Kyo used knowledge. Rostavili used power. Cota, number 5, uses cruelty. These aren't random villains. Each one is targeting a different layer of who Chuck Norris is. And as we go higher on this list, the attacks get deeper. By the time we get to number 1, the attack isn't on his body or his resources or even his mind. It's on his soul. Keep that thread in mind. It's going to matter. Number 5, the psychotic predator. Ramon Cota, Delta Force 2, The Colombian Connection, 1990. Most villains want to win. Ramon Cota wants to enjoy it. And there's a critical difference between those two things that almost nobody talks about. One is strategic. One is compulsive. And compulsive cruelty in an enemy is far more unpredictable and far more dangerous than anything calculated. Delta Force 2 takes us to South America, 1990. Norris's Colonel Scott McCoy is tasked with taking down a Colombian drug kingpin responsible for flooding American streets with cocaine and leaving a trail of bodies across 2 continents. That kingpin is Ramon Cota. Played with genuine menace, Cota isn't the standard suit-wearing crime boss counting money in a boardroom. He's on the ground. He's involved. He participates in the violence. Not because he has to, because he wants to. That distinction, wanting the pain rather than just accepting it as necessary, is everything when it comes to understanding why he's so dangerous. Ramon Cota has built his criminal empire on a foundation of absolute fear. Not the fear you generate by being powerful, though he's powerful. Not the fear you generate by being well-connected, though he's that too. The fear he generates is primal. It's the fear you feel when you realize the person across from you doesn't share any of your assumptions about what is and isn't acceptable. Cota operates with 0 moral floor. He will hurt anyone, at any time, for any reason, or for no reason at all. And against most heroes, that's an annihilating weapon. Because moral people, people with limits, will hesitate before crossing certain lines. Cota has no lines, which means he can always go one step further than his opponent is willing to go. That asymmetry is what makes him so effective. Here's the psychological portrait. Cota is what clinicians would identify as a primary psychopath. No remorse, no empathy, no internal braking mechanism. But, and this is crucial, he's not disorganized. He's not chaotic in the way we sometimes imagine psychopaths to be. He's methodical, strategic, patient when patience serves him. The cruelty isn't random, it's curated. He uses maximum suffering to send maximum messages. The goal isn't just to eliminate threats, it's to deter them, to make the cost of opposing him so viscerally horrifying that most people never even think about trying. And in a country already ground down by years of violence and institutional failure, it works on almost everyone. Against Chuck Norris, Cota tries the same playbook. He escalates the stakes. He makes the cost personal. There are losses in this film, real ones, that Norris's character has to carry. And here's where Cota's weapon finally meets its limit. Psychological warfare designed to create fear is useless against a man who has surgically removed fear from his operating system. Cota is applying maximum pressure to a nerve that simply doesn't connect to anything in Norris anymore. What it does instead is create focus. The greater the atrocity, the more precise and inevitable the response becomes. Cota thinks he's breaking Norris down. He's actually sharpening him. Number 5. Because cruelty without limit is devastating, but only if your target can be made to care about the cruelty more than the mission. Norris never makes that trade. Number 4 is different. Number 4 doesn't try to scare him, doesn't try to trap him. Number 4 tries to make him look in the mirror and not recognize what he sees. Number 4, the corrupt mirror. Riley, Code of Silence, 1985. Here's a question I want you to sit with for a second. What is the one thing that could genuinely shake a man like Chuck Norris? Not physically, not tactically, existentially. What do you say to a man who has built his entire life on justice, to make him question whether justice is real? Riley has the answer, and it's devastating. We're back in Code of Silence, which, as I mentioned earlier, features 2 entries on this list. That's not a coincidence. That film is arguably the richest villain ecosystem in Norris's entire filmography. While Rostavili operates from the outside, using criminal power to corrupt the system, Riley is already inside the system. He's a cop, a veteran officer, someone who took the same oath Chuck Norris's character took. And he has been quietly, consistently, systematically betraying it for years. He covers up crimes. He protects the wrong people. He bends the law until it serves him and his network, and lets it break anyone who gets in the way. He is institutional rot made human. Riley is dangerous in a way that almost no other villain on this list is. He makes the system dangerous. Think about what Norris's character, Eddie Cusack, actually relies on. Yes, he's a lone wolf. Yes, he's self-sufficient. Yes, he doesn't need a team for the physical parts of the job. But underneath all of that, he relies on justice as a concept. The belief that the law means something, that the badge means something, that there is a structure, however imperfect, worth fighting to protect. Riley attacks that belief directly. Every corrupt decision Riley makes is an argument. The argument is, this was never real. The law was always just power dressed up in a uniform. The badge was always just a license for whoever held it. You, Eddie Cusack, are not a guardian of justice. You're a fool who believed a story. That is an ideological attack, and ideological attacks are almost impossible to defend against with physical strength. What makes Riley psychologically fascinating, and this is pure villainologist territory, is that he's not a monster. He's not sadistic like Cota. He's not grandiose like Rostavili. He's mundane. He's the corruption that happens slowly, through 1,000 small decisions, each one justified at the time. A favor here, a blind eye there, a case file that gets lost. And that mundanity is what makes him so threatening to the story's moral architecture. Because monsters are easy to dismiss. Men who look like colleagues, who walk like colleagues, who talk like colleagues, and are quietly destroying everything from the inside, those are the ones that keep you up at night. Riley is the nightmare that looks exactly like the dream. The confrontation between Cusack and Riley isn't really a fight. It's a verdict. Norris doesn't have a long philosophical debate with him. He doesn't try to redeem him. He makes a choice that defines everything about his character. When the law fails, he becomes the law. When the institution breaks, he refuses to break with it. And in that refusal, in that stubborn, almost irrational insistence that the values still mean something even when the system has betrayed them, Chuck Norris tells you exactly who he was. Not a man who believed in institutions, a man who believed in principles. And the difference between those two things is everything. Number 4, because ideological attacks are devastating, but they require the target to doubt himself. Norris never doubts who he is. Which makes what's coming next so significant. Because number 3 is the one time in his career, on screen, documented, undeniable, where that certainty wasn't enough. Number 3 is Bruce Lee. And before you say, obviously, I need you to hear why he's only number 3. Because the reason might surprise you. Let's stop right here. We've got 3 left. Bruce Lee at number 3, a military nightmare at number 2, and number 1, the one I've been hinting at since the beginning. I want to make you a promise before we get into the top 3. By the time we get to number 1, you are going to look at every Chuck Norris film differently. Because number 1 doesn't just threaten Chuck Norris's body, his resources, his psychology, or his ideology. He threatens Chuck Norris's reason for existing. Stay with me. We're just getting to the good part. Number 3, the martial arts equal. Way of the Dragon, 1972. Everyone watching this video knew Bruce Lee was going to be on this list. The question you're all asking is, why is he only number 3? And the answer to that question is going to tell you something profound about what this ranking is actually measuring. So let me start with the undeniable fact, the one that separates this entry from every other entry on this list, and then I'll tell you why it still only gets him to number 3. 1. Rome, Italy. Bruce Lee, writer, director, and star of Way of the Dragon, sets the film's climax inside the actual Roman Colosseum. 2 martial artists, an empty arena, no audience except history. Lee plays Tang Lung, a man protecting a Chinese restaurant in Rome from criminal extortion. Chuck Norris plays Colt, a mercenary hired by the criminals, the best fighter money can buy. And Bruce Lee wrote this scene himself. He chose Chuck Norris. Out of everyone available in 1972, every martial artist, every action star, every person who could make this confrontation feel real, Lee looked at the landscape and said, him. I want him. That choice alone tells you everything about how seriously Norris was regarded, even at that early stage of his career. Bruce Lee didn't choose easy opponents. The fight itself is extraordinary, not just as action cinema, but as a philosophical statement. It begins with respect. The 2 men size each other up. There's no hatred here, no personal vendetta. just two craftsmen preparing to test each other to the absolute limit. And then it begins. Speed against power. Lee's flowing, adaptive style against Norris's structured, devastating precision. Evolution versus tradition. The fighter who invents as he goes versus the fighter who has drilled his responses into something almost mechanical in its reliability. What makes this fight so endlessly studied, and I mean studied by martial artists, choreographers, and film scholars, is that it's genuinely balanced for a significant portion of its runtime. Norris isn't being destroyed. He's competing. There are moments, real moments, where you think, this could go either way. And then Lee finds his rhythm, and the end becomes inevitable. Chuck Norris loses this fight. On screen. Definitively. One of the only times in his entire career. I want to be precise about that because it matters. Chuck Norris built a career on being the man who doesn't lose. The mythology around him, the memes, the jokes, the reverence, is built almost entirely on that foundation. And Bruce Lee, in 1972, in front of the Roman Colosseum, cracked it. Not just physically, cinematically. He put on film, permanently, the image of Chuck Norris being defeated. That is an extraordinary thing. So why is he number 3? Here's the argument, and I want you to really sit with this because it's the core of this entire ranking. Bruce Lee defeated Chuck Norris in a fight. He demonstrated superior skill, superior adaptability, superior speed. He earned the win completely and undeniably. But he didn't shake Norris's identity. He didn't question his reason for being. He didn't attack what Norris was at the deepest level. A loss in combat, even a profound public loss, doesn't break a man like Chuck Norris. It informs him. Great fighters learn from every defeat. They integrate it. They come back harder. A physical loss, even to someone as extraordinary as Bruce Lee, is recoverable. What's coming at number 2 and number 1? Those aren't physical losses. Those are existential ones. And those are the ones that truly threaten to break a man. Number 3. The greatest fighter Norris ever faced, and the only man who ever officially beat him on screen. But not the most dangerous. Number 2 doesn't fight Chuck Norris. Number 2 hunts him in a jungle with all the patience in the world and almost unlimited time. Number 2, the military nightmare. Colonel Yin, Missing in Action 2, The Beginning, 1985. There are opponents who fight you, and then there are opponents who make you fight yourself. Colonel Yin doesn't need to be a better martial artist than Chuck Norris. He doesn't need to match him punch for punch. He has something far more reliable than physical skill. He has time and the patience to use every second of it. Missing in Action 2, The Beginning, is a prequel showing us how Colonel James Braddock ended up in the POW camp that the original film depicted him escaping. It's arguably the darkest film in Norris's catalog, and intentionally so. This isn't an action film in the traditional sense. It's a survival film, a psychological endurance test. And at the center of it, running the POW camp with the cold efficiency of a man who has done this before and will do it again, is Colonel Yin. He's a North Vietnamese officer who has been breaking American prisoners for years, not just physically. He's studied the methodology of psychological collapse. He knows the stages of despair. He knows how to accelerate them. He is, in the most clinical sense, a professional breaker of men. Norris is more sophisticated than anything else on this list. Stage 1. Physical deprivation, starvation, exhaustion, the systematic dismantling of the body's ability to generate energy for resistance. Because you can be the most disciplined person on Earth, and discipline requires fuel. Without food, without rest, without basic physical maintenance, even the strongest will begin to fray. Stage 2. Social isolation. He separates prisoners, removes the possibility of solidarity, creates an environment where every man believes he is alone in a way that no one else can understand. Humans are social animals. Isolation, true isolation, does things to the mind that no physical punishment can replicate. Stage 3. Psychological warfare. He makes offers, makes it seem like cooperation is reasonable, creates the illusion that the line between resistance and surrender is negotiable, and then slowly moves that line. He's not trying to break Norris in a day. He's trying to make Norris break himself, over weeks, over months, to create conditions so comprehensive and relentless that resistance becomes its own kind of torture. That is the most psychologically sophisticated plan on this entire list. And here's the thing that makes Yin genuinely terrifying as a villain. It almost works. We see Norris in states we almost never see him, depleted, diminished, fighting on reserves that should have run out already. The invulnerability that defines nearly every other film in his career is visibly compromised here. You can see it in his face, in his posture, in the way his body moves differently than it does when he's operating at full capacity. Yin has stripped away the surplus. He's left only the irreducible core. And that irreducible core, that final, essential, unkillable thing at the center of Chuck Norris, turns out to be enough. But barely. Number 2. The man who got closer to breaking the body and the will than anyone else on this list, who designed a system so comprehensive that most men would have surrendered months before Norris did. But there's someone who targeted something deeper than all of that. Deeper than the body, deeper than the will. Number 1 went after the one thing Chuck Norris had always taken for granted: the belief that he was one of the good guys. Number 1, the ultimate rival. Raleigh Wilks, played by David Carradine, the Lone Wolf, 1983. Raleigh Wilks. Let me tell you about the most dangerous man Chuck Norris ever faced. Not because he was the fastest. Not because he was the fastest. Not because he was the strongest. Not because he had the most resources, or the most followers, or the most elaborate plan. Because of what he represented. Raleigh Wilks, played by David Carradine, is, on the surface, a warrior, a loner, a man who lives by his own code, answers to no one, and operates in the margins of civilization where the normal rules don't apply. Sound familiar? That's because it should. Because Raleigh Wilks is, in almost every meaningful way, Chuck Norris. Same background, same training, same discipline, same capability, the same essential template. The self-sufficient warrior who stands outside society, applied in a completely different direction. Where Norris channels that template toward protection, toward justice, toward restraint, Raleigh Wilks channels it toward something that has no restraint, no morality, no code beyond his own appetite, no line he won't cross if crossing it serves him. He is the same man, made wrong. Here's why Raleigh Wilks is the most dangerous opponent on this list. Every other villain attacks something external to Chuck Norris: his body, his resources, his institution, his psychology. Raleigh Wilks attacks his identity. Because the moment you put Chuck Norris across from someone who is his equal in every technical sense, and then reveal that person to be a monster? You raise an impossible question. What separates me from him? Same training, same capability, same autonomy, same willingness to use violence. If the training didn't prevent this, if the skill didn't prevent this, then what did? And is it permanent? Or is it just a choice that could, under different circumstances, have gone the other way? That question, even asked silently, even never voiced out loud, is more destabilizing than anything any other opponent on this list could ever do. Because it cracks the foundation. And a man without a foundation, even briefly, even partially, is a man at his most vulnerable. Let's do what this channel does and go deeper into Raleigh Wilks as a villain. David Carradine brings something to this role that's almost uncomfortable to watch. He plays Raleigh Wilks with a serenity that is deeply wrong. He's not angry. He's not raging. He's not consumed by hatred or ego. He's calm. And that calm is the tell, because it reveals that Raleigh Wilks doesn't experience his actions as transgressive. He's not crossing lines and feeling the crossing. He's simply operating in a world where the lines don't exist. That's the definition of a fully realized dark mirror. He doesn't choose evil. He doesn't embrace darkness. He just has a different map. A map where there is no territory marked too far. And standing across from that, knowing that this is what you could have become, knowing that the difference between his map and yours might be one or two decisions made at the right or wrong moment in your past. That is the most frightening thing a villain can make a hero feel. When they finally face each other, it's nothing like the Colosseum. There's no pageantry here, no warm-up, no mutual acknowledgement of the other's skill. It's brutal, messy, personal in a way that none of the other fights on this list are. Because this isn't a competition between two warriors testing themselves against each other. This is Chuck Norris trying to eliminate something that looks like him. And that creates a specific kind of violence that's almost uncomfortable to watch. Because you sense that the aggression isn't just about winning the fight. It's about proving something. To Raleigh Wilks. And to himself. For one of the only moments in his entire career, Norris looks unsure. Not physically overmatched, though Raleigh Wilks gives him everything he can handle, but unsure. Conflicted in a way that has nothing to do with technique and everything to do with the fact that destroying this man requires destroying a version of himself. He does it anyway, because that's who Chuck Norris is. But the look on his face when it's over, that's not victory. That's survival. Raleigh Wilks is number one because he accomplished something that no other opponent on this list came close to doing. He didn't just threaten Chuck Norris. He made Chuck Norris question himself. Not his skill. There was never any doubt about the skill. Not his courage. There was never any doubt about that either. But his certainty. The deep, settled, foundational certainty that the man he is and the man he should be are the same man. Every hero draws their power from that certainty. Take it away, even for a moment, and you haven't just beaten them. You've unmade them. Raleigh Wilks got closer to unmaking Chuck Norris than any soldier, any crime lord, any corrupt cop, any jungle predator, or even Bruce Lee ever did. He nearly broke him. Not the body, the belief. And That is the most dangerous thing one person can do to another. 7 opponents. 7 men who tried, in completely different ways, to end Chuck Norris. But each one revealed something. Kyo revealed the grief he carried. Rostavili revealed his refusal to be contained. Cota revealed his immunity to fear. Riley revealed his belief in principles over institutions. Bruce Lee revealed equality in martial art. Colonel Yin revealed the irreducible thing at his core. And Raleigh Wilks? Raleigh Wilks revealed that the line between hero and villain is something you have to choose to maintain. Every single day. Even when, especially when, it costs you everything. Rest in peace, Chuck Norris. Nobody got you. Nobody ever really could. But these 7 men, they showed us exactly what you were made of. Drop a comment. Which of these villains do you think came closest to actually breaking him? I read every single one. And if you're new here, this is what Villainologist does. We go deeper. Subscribe, because we're just getting started.